Launch sequence.
Hey guys, today I want to show you a build I did in the Be Quiet Dark Base 700 series. Now this is going to be the third Be Quiet case that I build in. I did the much smaller Be Quiet 500 with a mesh panel. Also the legendary Dark Base Pro 900, which was an awesome case. So I'm really looking forward to the build in the 700 series. Let's see how it stacks up versus the bigger brother and how much better it is than the smaller one. So let's get started. Hey guys, Tiago here with Classical Technology. Thank you for joining me for another video. If you like my content, remember to subscribe, smash that like button, leave a comment below. Let me know which of the three sizes you would most like to build in. So a while back, I did a really cool build, no pun intended, 900 revision 2. Here's a little video of that. As you can see, this case was absolutely made for all types of configurations, including very high-end water cooling. I had the inverted motherboard. The build quality was really exceptional. Everything feels very solid. Everything's intelligently designed. Even the way that you invert the motherboard, all the different panels, you know, everything from the glass and from how all the panels fit together, it's definitely a step above most of the other cases that are on the market. I really enjoyed building in it. Not to mention the flexibility of having water cooling all over the place. I have a radiator on the bottom, on the top, on the front, on the back. So you can fit so much radiator space in here that it's really a tremendous build for that. And then likewise, I also built in their smaller version, which is going to be the 500. Now this is the DX model, which basically adds that mesh front panel. As you guys know, sometimes a restrictive case, you may have to have the fans pump up a little bit louder. That's why Be Quiet has these awesome fans. You can run them at a pretty decent RPM without hearing them. They're generally very quiet. They have great static pressure. I've been using them on radiators for a long time. But of course, if you combine them with something like the 500DX with the mesh panel, you're going to have a lot more airflow, meaning most likely you're really not going to have to run these fans at a very high RPM. So you're definitely going to be able to keep everything nice and quiet while staying pretty cool. This build, I decided to go all air cooled. Of course, I have their Dark Rock Pro 4 air cooler. That's also cooling a 9900K, but that's going to be on an Asus Prime A motherboard. And here we also have a 2080 for the Win 3 from EVGA. As you can see, this is a pretty beefy GPU. It's a 2.5 slot GPU with fantastic cooling. So it's literally silent. It's actually running right behind me on the other side there. I can't even hear it. It runs the 9900K marvelously well. I haven't had any issues with it. And now, as we transition into talking about the build in the 700, there are definitely going to be some similarities as well as some differences in the case. Now, the case itself is going to come in almost right in the middle of the 500 and 900 in terms of size. It's not really huge or anything like that, but it's also not ultra small, meaning you can fit a decent amount of hardware in it. Maybe it's akin to something like a Fractal Design R6 or something like that in terms of the size. That might be a little bigger than this actually, but it's more in that range. It's like, you know, not huge, but not too small. Definitely spacious enough either for an air-cooled AIO or a full water cooling loop. Now, the specs for this build, I'm once again going to use a 10900K, but instead of that Asus Prime A motherboard, I have a very special motherboard that I'm going to use, and that's the Asus Z490 Apex motherboard. If you guys are familiar with this is going to be one of the best motherboards specifically for overclocking. It has that really cool design with the X. As you can see, it has only 2 RAM slots. That third DIMM is actually not for RAM. It's going to be for M.2 hard drives, which is actually really cool. When you have a build in this case and you need to change over your M.2 hard drives, you don't have to take everything out and unscrew stuff. You can just pull this out, easily mess with your drives, and then put it in. That makes it a fantastic feature, especially in a case like this that you have a little bit more room to get your hands in there and things aren't going to be as cramped. So really exciting to be building in this Apex motherboard. That means that we're definitely going to be overclocking this 10900K pretty nicely. So a case like this, especially with the included fans, is going to be tremendous in terms of airflow to make sure that everything is performing really well. And for the GPU, just to change things up a little bit, I'm actually going to put in the AMD 5700 XT because I do have a water block for this AMD GPU, and in the future I do plan to turn this 700 build into a water-cooled build. But until I do that, I definitely want to test out the air cooling capabilities, doing it like that with a reference cooler. And of course, and when I water cool it, you can definitely put that up against the glass because then everything's being cooled by liquid and it doesn't have as much of an effect. In the Be Quiet 500DX build, I used their Dark Rock Pro air cooler on the 10900K. But now I want to use an AIO liquid cooler to see how much better performance I can get with something like that, or maybe it's going to be pretty close. That way we're going to get the best static pressure, and I think with this AIO it should be more than enough to keep up with the temperatures of the 10900K. As you guys have seen, the 10900K sometimes can run pretty warm, but it's not as bad as people had thought before. Even on the air cooler, the Dark Rock Pro 4, it actually performed really well even under intensive workloads. It really handled it quite well, so I'm sure that this AIO is also going to handle it pretty well. So a few build notes and impressions of the case. First of all, the quality is there, just like in the 900 series. I mean, everything feels impeccable. All the different panels feel very high quality. Even the way things screw in, everything's really nicely designed, and the way that you can take stuff off. Of course, you're also going to have your hard drive storage. You can do it sort of in the front of the case. In the basement of the case, you also have that. Traditionally, with gaming PC builds that don't require a lot of hard drive space, I end up removing the hard drive stuff anyway and using much smaller M.2 hard drives, or maybe even smaller SSD drives if I have to. That way, I can free up the case for not only better airflow, but maybe better cooling components. Like if you do a water-cooled loop, you can fit different radiators or something like that. Performance-wise, it is a very quiet case. Everything, since it's so high quality, is nicely insulated, and you pair it with these Be Quiet fans, and it's really the perfect combination of case and fan performance, because you can run these fans a little bit higher if you have to without really hearing them. They have a very pleasant tone when you can hear them. They've been generally some of my favorite fans to use, even in water-cooled builds. They work great, of course, in air-cooled builds as well. So performance-wise, this case definitely does the job. You just have to remember it's a case that's going to be focused more on quiet, meaning it's more insulated, so airflow isn't going to be as much as something like their 500DX, which has a mesh panel. You do get a little bit more restricted airflow, but if you combine them with the Be Quiet fans where you can run them inaudibly a little bit louder, it really creates like a perfect mesh. It's something you really have to see in action to see how it works. So in general, noise performance, it's definitely very good, considering that the case is really insulated. So I don't think you should have any problem at all powering even very high-end hardware. And of course, in terms of the aesthetics, I think these cases are absolutely beautiful. You can just have such an awesome showpiece of a system in there. It's really gratifying to work on. And even the smaller 500DX aesthetically looks really good. It has these LED strips on the front. That's another nice thing I like about Be Quiet. All their cases, they come with something integrated, be it the RGB strips or even like a certain fan control. That way, when you're doing your build, it's really useful. And in fact, in some of the cases, you can even press the button in the front to change the LED colors. For me personally, sometimes I like doing that because, as you know, RGB software can be all over the place and sometimes it doesn't exactly sync up with everything. So doing that when you just want a quick change of color, you know, touch your case, that's definitely a very straightforward way of doing it. They're very unique looking. There's not too much that looks like this. They have a very nice design language that they share between the bigger 900, 700, and 500. Of course, each having their unique little attributes, like the base is different on some of them, the top, but you can definitely tell it's a Be Quiet case when you see it. it. And the 700 looks really, really good. And I think this may end up being one of my favorite cases just because the size is a little more manageable than a 900, but you can still fit a ton of stuff in here, especially for a high-end system. Now let's talk about the case and maybe some competition on the market. Now this isn't a budget case by any means. It comes in around $180 or something like that. Now if you see other cases in this range, this case is definitely very unique. But as soon as I got it, from the unboxing experience all the way to the build experience, I saw that it's definitely unique. It's different than any other case that I've built in. It's definitely better than most of the stuff you're gonna get like from Corsair or things of that nature. The fractal design cases I also like building in. Generally they're pretty nice, but I still think these Be Quiet cases are a notch above, and they have very, very unique attributes. So if you're tired of building in sort of standard cases and everything's the same, I would definitely urge you to check out one of these Be Quiet cases, especially the 700. I think it hits the sweet spot between being a good size, fitting a lot of hardware, and I think it's definitely priced fair for the type of case that you get. It's definitely a very high-end case with really, really nice build quality. You can do multiple builds in this over the years, and I think it's going to last you just fine. And if you compare these type of cases to other stuff on the market, you'll see the build quality. As soon as you touch a case like this, you're going to see that everything is put together in a more intelligent way. Even their fans from the Silent Wings 2 and Silent Wings 3, you can tell that the fans are built to a different standard. It's a much, much higher standard. Everything just feels very premium and high-end, and that's something that you really have to get in your hands so you see how it is. So definitely, versus the competition, I think the price is definitely worth it. You're getting a very unique and acoustically pleasing case, like the name Be Quiet says, and I don't think there are very many other cases on the market, especially not for this price, that are going to give you these unique features and a very cool aesthetic. Alright guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this build. Let me know if you have any questions below. If you're thinking of building in a case like this, remember to subscribe, smash that like button, and I'll see you guys on the next video.